Hello everyone, welcome to another one of Asfar's Digital Talks. Today we have Tommy from Focus in Slovenia who work on energy poverty. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat and then Tommy can answer them at the end. If you'd like to see any future talks, they're all on our YouTube channel. So I'll hand over to you, Tommy, if you want to share your screen.
My name is Tomislav Tkalec. I come from Slovenia. I'm working in an environmental NGO called Focus Association for Sustainable Development. Let's say regionally or globally, it's a small NGO, but since Slovenia is a very small country, we are kind of one of the main organizations working on energy and climate issues and also transport. A lot of our work is dedicated to energy poverty. We've been dealing with the issue for about 10 years now, working mostly on European projects related to that. And most of that projects had like two parts of them. So one was focusing on practical measures, so helping households, and we'll talk a bit more about that today. And the other one was working on structural solutions for reducing energy poverty. Now, for the beginning, let's just say that we're going to talk about in the context of, let's say, European energy poverty, and not the global term energy poverty, where we're talking more about people not having access to energy. In European context, it's a bit different, and we'll come later to that. So yeah, in the end, I'll try to answer the questions you have. We're going to focus a bit also on the Southeast Europe, this region, because we were working mainly in this region. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. So first, a bit about energy poverty, then about causes and consequences of energy poverty, some just a short briefing about the key figures and policies in Europe, what's going on, what's expected from countries in European Union. Then a bit about our current project, and it's called Empowerment, and then we're going to see how practical measures look in practice actually, and what we've been implementing for more than 6 or 7 years now, and what we've been able to succeed with it. So we developed or we're running energy advising in households, so energy advisors were visiting households and helping them. So first, about energy poverty. I'm sure that not all of you are familiar with the term, and you're not the only ones. We have a lot of meetings with decision makers, and now it gets kind of okay. More or less, majority of them that should hear about it know a bit about energy poverty. But when we started 10 years ago, we had a lot of meetings then, and we were speaking with the officials at the ministries, talking about energy poverty, about the statistics about it, about appropriate measures. And then after 15 minutes, one of them said, okay, time out. So what's energy poverty? So we can start with that there's no accepted definition on the EU level yet. And in majority of the countries, there's also no definition yet. So Slovenia is included here. The term was developed, actually, we're still speaking about this European energy poverty context. So the term was developed in UK by Brenda Boardman and her associates. And they actually succeeded to have some kind of definition that was used on the national level. So some measures were applied to it, and they could see if the measures were successful or not, if the energy poverty is reducing it or not. And the definition went, it was something like that. Energy poverty occurs when a household spends more than 10% of its income on basic energy needs. So that means that in a month or in a year, more than 10% of the income of the household, so their salaries or pensions or whatever they get, they spend on basic energy needs. What are basic energy needs? It's more or less electricity that you use for all the appliances and lighting in the apartment or in the house, and heating of space and water. But if we would use this definition, so more than 10% of its income, in majority of other countries, we would have a high share of the population being energy poor based on this definition. So if we take this definition, more than 10% of its income, for Slovenia, we would have about 1/3 of households being in energy poverty. If we take this definition in Bulgaria, we would have more than 90% of households in energy poverty because the income level are that much lower than, let's say, in the UK. And for that reason, households have to pay a bigger share of their incomes for their energy needs. So in Slovenia, as I said, we don't have a definition, and majority of the countries don't have it yet. So we use some kind of a description. I mean, the Statistical Office of Republic of Slovenia uses a description because they're preparing some statistics every year on the situation and on some of the relevant indicators. So then we can check in which direction things are going, if the situation is getting better or worse. And the description they're using is that energy poverty is a situation when a household is not able to provide a suitable warm apartment and other energy services at an acceptable price. So we don't have any numbers here, so it's not possible to measure it. It's just description in words. And if we would like to focus the measures on energy poor households, we cannot see here who is the energy poor. That's why majority of the measures in Slovenia are focused on households with low income, so the ones that receive either social support or some kind of other social benefits. We can also use a simpler definition or description that an energy poor household can hardly afford or cannot afford basic energy needs. So this includes electricity and heating of space and water. Let's just add here that in the UK, they used another definition after this one, and it went in the direction that energy poor household spends more than 2 times the median expenditure for energy. This 2 times the median refers to the average, so how much the average household in US is paying for their energy needs. So if you spend more than 2 times that, you're energy poor. So this is a relative definition. On the other hand, this 10% of its income is absolute definition, and here you can reduce energy poverty and come to 0. But if you use the relative definition, this level gets only lower, so you always have some energy poor based on that definition. So what causes energy poverty? We're usually speaking about 3 main factors, which are more or less always closely connected or related. Low income is one of them, and probably the most important one. That one is generally linked to general poverty. Then we have energy prices that are getting higher and higher. And the third one is poor energy efficiency of a home. So if we combine these 3 factors, then we usually have energy poor household. It doesn't mean that every energy poor household lives in poor energy efficiency home or not well insulated home, but usually it is like that. If we're speaking about groups of population who is most affected by energy poverty, we're more or less based on statistics, research, and also our experience. We're talking about elderly, about single parent families, about unemployed students, poor workers, as well women. So more or less, a lot of these groups represent population with lower income. In this project that we're running now, we also included the gender issue because also research and the experience show that women and women-led households are disproportionately affected by energy poverty. One reason is because majority of the elderly persons are women because they live longer. And on the other hand, a lot of single parent households are also women-led. Um, and this connected to the low incomes brings us to this issue. Consequences of energy poverty. It's so we're not speaking only about energy, but also about other issues. So one of them is deterioration of the housing conditions. A lot of people live in cold, damp, moist apartments or houses. There are economic difficulties, so they cannot pay their bills or debts. They had to make choices sometimes between food and warmth, and it brings stress with it. If you have to make decisions about that, there are some social difficulties, social isolation, degraded self-esteem as well. And then we also have some health problems. So if you live in cold apartment, of course, you're probably going to have some health problems as well, or moist or damp or apartment with mold. So we're mostly speaking about respiratory and circulatory diseases, conditions such as flu, cold, arthritis, rheumatism, but there are also health problems. So we see that it's not just energy problem, but it's also social problem, economic problem, health problem, and also environmental problem. Because if you don't, let's say you live in a house in a village, you don't have money for paying your, I don't know, gas bill for heating, so you're going to use probably some wood from the forest, or you can also burn your trash or your neighbor's trash, and burning that in inefficient systems brings a lot of air pollution as well. Going to the EU level, so the numbers from the EU Energy Poverty Observatory speaks about more than 50 million people cannot keep their homes warm during the winter. More than 100 million people cannot keep their homes comfortable during summertime, and more than 50 million people face delays in paying their energy bills. So we see the numbers are quite high. If we see that European Union has about 500 million people, we're speaking here about 10 to 20% of people having problems related to energy. And we see that especially the number for the summer conditions is pretty higher than the winter conditions. And if we put that in the context of climate change and warmer climate and higher temperatures in the summertime, we see that this problem will only get higher if it won't be addressed properly in the future. There are some indexes and statistics about energy poverty on the EU level. And one of the indexes is this one, European Domestic Energy Poverty Index. And based on this index, we can see a clear division between the countries in the EU. So the ones that have low level of energy poverty based on this index, and the ones that have a quite high level of energy poverty. And we see this distinct line between, let's say, Northwest Europe and the Southeast Europe. It relates to the fact that income of the household is quite higher in these Northwest countries. On the other hand, infrastructure in the South and East Europe, especially housing infrastructure, is not in as good conditions as in West and North Europe. So speaking about South Europe, there's not a lot of wall insulation because mostly it's quite warm in the summertime, in spring, in autumn as well. And in the wintertime, they try to heat as much as they can, but they use quite a lot of energy for that because they don't have their houses or flats insulated. There's a lot of apartment buildings in the East Europe being built in the socialist time. And there are not enough funds to renovate all of them. That's why the situation is not as good as in North and West Europe. So yeah, some other issues that are more predominant in Southeast Europe is that the fact that energy poverty is an issue of low or no political interest in the region. That is currently being changed because of the European Commission and its regulation on governance of energy union, but we'll come later to that. As I said, income level is lower than in Western and North Europe. Housing stock is in poor state. Living conditions sometimes are quite shockingly poor in some of the cases. Limited social and other support. On the other hand, some of the countries have grants for subsidizing energy use for poor, and but that means only paying for the fuel, and in a lot of cases that is low quality coal or wood or some similar other energy carriers that bring a lot to the air pollution and don't actually fix the problem. There's no clear division between social and non-social housing, so it's quite difficult to target some of the areas. Let's say in France, we have partner in Marseille, and there's quite a distinct line. They know where the social housing is, so it's the whole neighborhood of social housing, so they can target, and the regional government can also target this neighborhood by itself and fix the problem there. On the other hand, in our countries, because the social housing is dispersed, we cannot target just one neighborhood because it's all over the city. There was a switch from subsidized energy prices to market-based prices. So the prices of energy rose, especially in the 90s. So that means that households had to pay more for the energy as they did before. And there's quite high share of home ownership. We're talking even to more than 90% of people living in their own homes. A lot of these people don't have funds to renovate their buildings, their houses or their flats. On the other hand, if it's rental, as it is in a lot of cities in Western Europe, then the owner, the investor, the owner of the block of the apartments can renovate it by himself. Yeah, a bit about policy. So in 2018, a regulation on the governance of energy union was adopted on the EU level. It states, apart from all the other things, that the countries have to prepare their national energy and climate plans. So all of the countries in the EU had to prepare that by the beginning of this year. And they had to include also the issue of energy poverty. It was stated nonetheless that if the analysis shows that there's no energy poverty in the country, then they don't have to prepare a plan to reduce energy poverty. But on the other hand, if there's energy poverty in the country, they have to prepare a plan what they will do on the issue. And I think Bulgaria included in their national plan that there's no energy poverty in the country, so they don't have it. But I'm not sure, but I think it's Bulgaria. And for the Slovenian case, they have included the issue of energy poverty in the energy and climate plan. Their main objective is to mitigate and reduce energy poverty. And they set some future steps or activities. We were actually hoping that all of these 4 activities would be already included in the NACP, so in the National Energy and Climate Plan, but unfortunately they were not. So by the end of 2021, they plan to identify energy poverty, determine the obligation to periodically measure the dimensions of energy poverty. That includes also preparing the definition for energy poverty as well. Then to determine how energy poverty is measured and determine the target indicators. So they can prepare all the measures and then evaluate if the measures are successful or not. There's a mistake in the fourth activity. By 2022, not 2020, an action plan to tackle energy poverty should be prepared, which is a good step. But as I said, I already thought that this would be included in the NACP. So we're lacking 2 years. We're losing 2 years on the issue. Yeah, just to add here that some of the measures already exist in Slovenia. I will talk in the end about that, and we were majority of the measures started because of our work, and we were helping the ministry setting their own program, which is currently being run by the National Eco Fund. So what are other benefits of tackling energy poverty besides houses being more efficient? If we're speaking about measures focusing on energy refurbishment and energy efficiency, because these are the most successful and efficient measures when tackling energy poverty. So on one hand, we have this infrastructural part. So as I said, investing in energy efficiency. On the other hand, we could also help households with by subsidizing their energy bills, or I don't know, paying for their heating costs or something like that. So this is more social economic measure. But here we don't have their state will not get any better. So they will need the same amount of money next year and the next year and the next year. So the situation doesn't get better. On the other hand, if we invest in energy efficiency of the building, so if we change the windows with more efficient one, if we insulate the walls or do similar measures, or I don't know, change heating system with more efficient, less polluting one, we actually make changes regarding their living conditions in the household, and on the other hand, we are reducing their costs in the future. So apart from this, we can also stress that other benefits include less money spent by governments on health, because we reduce health problems. If we upgrade the living conditions of the households, reduced air pollution, if we change the heating systems with more efficient, less polluting ones, better comfort and well-being, improved household budgets, because they won't have to pay as much for their energy costs in the future. Also reactivation of people. We've seen with these activities that we've done that some of the people actually began to think about their energy use and what kind of measures they will do in the future, and I don't know, implementing hints and tips and advices on reducing energy use. Not all of them, of course, but majority of them did, and that was some kind of a added value of the household visits that we did, because if somebody comes to your house and speaks about energy, then you're going to think about that in the future as well, more or less. Okay, a bit about the current project that we're running. So it's, we're coordinating the Horizon 2020 European project called Empowerment. The whole title is Empowering Women to Take Action Against Energy Poverty in Mediterranean. So there are two special focuses of the project. One is focusing on women, because as I said before, women-led households are I lost the word currently. So there are bigger problems in their households, and the energy poverty in Mediterranean, because of the climate change and the rising temperatures, the problem will be more severe in the areas where already the summers are hot. So we're focusing not just on winter energy poverty, but also on the summer energy poverty. So how to cool your apartment in the summertime when it's really hot outside. There's 1 to 9 partners in the project. All of them except one are Mediterranean countries. So we're focusing on pilot areas on the coastline of the Mediterranean and implementing our measures and activities there. The overall objective of the project is to contribute to energy poverty alleviation and health improvement of people affected by the energy poverty in these pilot regions. So we're going to include 10,000 people in the project activities. Then based on the activities that were done and the research that is going to be carried out with these activities, we're going to assess the impacts of the measures and formulate some policy recommendations that will be prepared especially for the local, regional level, for the national level and the EU level. And then there's quite a lot of policy work, advocacy work as well. So bringing these recommendations to the decision makers on all of the 3 levels that I said. So the first steps are, of course, mobilizing key local actors. Because if you're working on the issue of energy poverty, one organization cannot do everything by themselves. Small NGO cannot do a lot if it's working by itself, but if you include all the partners that you need, then you can have efficient and successful projects and implementation of activities. And then in Slovenia, we're doing quite good. So we managed to motivate quite a lot of actors in all the areas that we worked until now. And after the National Eco Fund started with the program that is based on our activities and methodology, they found the same problem. So we had to help them figure out the solutions for that as well. So you need some actors that can access these households. So we're speaking about low-income households, and if they get the information by somebody they don't trust, they will not apply, let's say, for this household visits of energy advisors. So you have to go through either through social centers for social work, Caritas, Red Cross, or some similar other organizations that are trusted by the households. Then you need, of course, a lot of media support. So you have to work with local media. In the previous project, these energy advisors that were visiting households were actually high school students doing their internship like this. So we had to work with school and with municipality as well. So we kind of included majority of the relevant local actors. And we're doing similar now in the region where we're working now. So you have to mobilize them, then you have to build their capacity, because not a lot of them know the topic of energy poverty. So informing them, educating them on the topic, trying to show them how they can help with the activities that are being implemented. Then we come to the core activities that are meant for households. So I already spoke a bit about the household energy visits, and I'm going to present that later. We're also going to implement collective assemblies, do-it-yourself workshops. So both of them is kind of some kind of community approach of getting individuals who are affected by energy poverty on workshops where we can show some solutions, help them with their problems. So not just related to the, let's say, energy use in household, but if they have some problems with the bills, if they got cut off from electricity or from gas heating because they didn't pay the bills or because of some other problems. So we try to find solutions in that way as well. And also try to figure out how they can help themselves as well. So if somebody speaks about their experience, that might help somebody else. If some of them will be extra motivated, they can help other people that were not part of these workshops and similar. So this collective assemblies approach is developed by the partners from Barcelona, and they are already implementing it with quite success. They have a lot of people there, and their experience is that it's not just about energy efficiency, but it's a lot about legal issues as well. So how to deal with contracts with utility services and similar. Then another issue or another activities are health workshops. We try to connect the problem of energy poverty and the health aspect of the problem, and try to incorporate here also the relevant actors from the health sphere. We're in contact with our National Ministry for Health and with the National Institute for Public Health. Currently, unfortunately, they're all dealing with the coronavirus. So we're going to continue with our work on energy poverty with them after the situation gets a bit better, which hopefully it will get soon enough. So these are the practical activities and measures. And then, as I said, this will all be included in the research being done and the evaluation that will result in policy recommendations for tackling energy poverty. And then it's the last part, advocacy of energy poverty policy solutions on regional, local, national and EU level. So going to practice, how does the household visits for energy and water savings looks like? So we're implementing this methodology for about 8 years now. It was developed by Caritas Frankfurt, so in Germany. And then it was deployed in our first project in 7 other countries as well. So the energy advisors are implementing an energy audit and advising in households affected by energy poverty. I can actually show you a video how it looks like. The main goals of the activities are to reduce energy and water use and related costs in households, to inform and empower households on the topic of energy and water use and efficiency and how to handle their bills, cost of the energy, to equip households with hints and tips on how to reduce their energy use. All the households get some devices, simple devices that reduce energy and water use. And we try to provide some support with any additional issues. So with their eco-fund applications for subsidies for energy efficiency measures, providing information on where they can get additional help for some other issues that are not specifically related to energy poverty or energy use. I'll just explain this and then we can go back to the video. So the steps are for implementing the visits start with addressing the households. As I said, you need here some relevant organizations, institutions that are being trusted by the households. So here we're mainly working with centers for social work, Caritas. We used leaflets here with the application form. So they went to their center for social work. because they receive social support, and the official there just handed them the leaflet and said, this is a good program or a good project, so please apply for it. You'll get devices for free, and you'll save about 100 euros per year because of the devices and the visit that is being carried out. So when you get the application form, then you set the appointment with the household, you explain them how the procedure will look like, tell them what they should prepare in front, all the bills they have or invoices for their electricity, heating, water, and similar stuff. You tell them that it will take approximately 1 hour and what they can expect from it. Then the first visit is being carried out with the paper form data collection sheet. It includes some basic questions about the people living there, about the building itself. So if it's insulated, how old it is, what's how many square meters does it have, is it insulated, stuff like that. Then there are questions related to electricity bills and invoices for water and heating. We actually measure some of the energy use of some of the devices in the household, let's say television or computer or some similar devices. And then we can actually calculate right there when we are visiting them how much electricity and what that means in euros they spend for some of the devices or appliances. And in some cases, we had cases where the computer was on 24/7, so non-stop. So we asked the mother, okay, but how much is it being used by your kid? She said, okay, about two hours per day. Then we calculated immediately that if the computer is run 24/7, it means like 100 or 150 euros per year goes in the air. So after 5 minutes, the computer was turned off. We had similar issues with TVs as well. Some of the households are just keep them on for 10 hours per day or similar. And then when you calculate how much savings they would have in a year, about 100 euros, they start being a bit rational. But we never use the approach to tell the household that they must do something or that they are not doing something right, because the social circumstances are different and situations are different from household to household, and you don't know what they've been through, what I don't know how they feel. You don't know their history, if they have any other problems, so you cannot come to their household and say, okay, you have to turn off the TV because you use 100 euros per year for nothing. You do this politely, and you just explain that if they would turn off the TV more regularly, they would save this amount of money, but it's their decision and you cannot force it. It wouldn't be fair because some of the households live in pretty bad conditions, and if you take this little small thing that is holding them above the water, I don't know if it's TV, and they get this people talking on the TV because they live alone, if you take this from them, the situation will be worse for their health as well. Okay, yeah, then this is about the electricity appliances. Then we check if the windows are okay or if they need this draft proofing sealing or not. What's the situation with the heating system? We put all of the data in an Excel tool that calculates the savings automatically. So we add in the tool which saving devices they will get. And we're speaking here about simple devices. So it's not really an infrastructural project or activity. It's just giving something small, but in the end, it reduces their energy use and they save up to 100 euros per year because of it. So we're speaking about energy efficient light bulbs or now LED light bulbs, draft proofing for windows, efficient shower heads that reduce water use, tap aerators also for taps to reduce water use. So simple devices that more or less everybody knows, but in some cases they cannot afford it or you don't think about it, but in the end we saved quite a lot of energy and costs for them if we combine all of the households together. So on the second visit, the results are presented. So how much savings they will gain if when the devices will be installed. The devices are being installed in household. We also speak a lot about advices and tips and how to reduce their energy use and maybe change habits. But as I said, in a polite, kind way, just proposing, not saying what they must do. And then in the end, there's also evaluation part. After 6 months after the visit, the households are being called by telephone with a short questionnaire about some of the activities that were carried out in the 6 months and if the savings are there or not, and if they have changed anything else. So just shortly about the numbers, this is for our previous project. So in Slovenia, in 2.5 years, we've done 410 visits of households. On the project level, that was 1,500 because Croatia, Macedonia, and Bulgaria were included. Investment price of the devices they got, so the energy efficient light bulbs, efficient shower heads, draft proofing for windows, was about 27.5 euros per household, and the household in average saved about 76 euros per year, because just because these devices were installed. So if they change their habits or their behavior regarding energy use, they could save even more. But we have to say here that not all of the not in all households big savings were possible, because some of the households really used small amounts of energy and water, and in some cases we even didn't know what to do, because I don't know, they used 5 liters or 7 liters of water per day, or they didn't heat in the winter time. I mean, you come there with a questionnaire, ask, okay, how much you spend for heating, and they say nothing, because we don't have money for it. So there were still a lot of issues where we couldn't help, and that's why we're working on the policy issues to try to find solutions for this kind of cases as well. So as I said before, there's a eco fund, a national institution in Slovenia that provides financial support, so more or less subsidies and loans for energy efficiency measures. And based on our projects, they have started with their program on energy poverty. So currently they have four activities or programs on energy poverty. One is this energy advising in households that is based on our methodology, and we have actually developed everything for them for free. And we're happy that it's being run on the national level, because we cannot cover all Slovenia. We cover just few regions, pilot regions for now, and they're covering now whole Slovenia, but they have issues with getting to households because not all of the centers for social work are disseminating or promoting this measure. Then they have a new program that is also covered, so everything is for free, so for households in all of the programs. So in the next program, 0500, 500 households will actually gain quite some investment in up to 8,000 euros for energy efficiency measures, like installation of walls, changing windows and doors, changing heating systems. So that is a real infrastructural measure that will have a big effect on their energy costs, so reducing their energy costs and improving their well-being in the apartment or house. There are also subsidies, 100% subsidies for replacement of heating devices in some of the regions in Slovenia. So this is not covered for whole Slovenia. And 100 subsidies for costs for renovation of a multi-apartment building. But here it's not for the whole multi-apartment building, but for the owners of the flats in the building that receive social support. Yeah, this is, I checked the time and it's 6:50, so I think this would be it from my side. I hope it was at least a bit interesting. This is the webpage of our project if you want to check it out. In either case, thank you for listening. Now we'll see if there were any questions, and I'll stop sharing the screen.
Thank you, Tommy. So does anybody have any questions? Also, I know you had a video. Do you want to show the video now? So we have 9 minutes, or would you like us to send out a link in an email to everyone that signed up?
Yeah, I think that that would be better to send the link. And we use this time that we have for questions or debate, discussion.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? If you just unmute, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Well, two things. One, you were mentioning the issues of the, let's say, legal issues with the utility companies or contracts, but I assume that in these cases there are huge debts, unpaid bills. So how do you deal with that? I mean, do you make an agreement, or they just, people don't pay? That is one question. And the other question is, if you calculate, let's say, all the costs of the project overall, including all the cost of all your visits and all of the things that you do, I mean, what is the, let's say, the impact of this part, of the soft part, on the overall? And if you, just to try to understand if it is, let's say, it makes sense, because I understand that, of course, these people in disadvantage, they would not have the time and the possibility and the knowledge to go and look for these grants, and probably that is the main point. And this I fully understand. But if you compare all this calculation and this switch the television off or on, I mean, maybe you can just send a general message without measuring exactly that type of television, you know. And I mean, it's a, I mean, how to spend the resources, you know, the effort. Thank you.
Thanks. So for the second question, we've done the calculation of the savings in households and what were all the costs of the measure being implemented in the household. And it's a bit, the savings are not that high in the end, of course. So you spend quite a lot for the measure being implemented, but that was not, I mean, we know that this is a soft solution. It's not the solution for energy poverty. So it's a first step. You begin with this and then you can implement some infrastructural measure. We started with it because it was the simplest way. So we don't have 5,000 or 10,000 euros to help a household. We could do this. And we managed to spread it on the national level. And it's not in the form that, okay, they won't be in energy poverty anymore. Of course they will be, because 170 euros or 100 euros for them, I mean, it's not little, but it's not much, of course. But it's a first step. So first you have to inform them, also a bit educate them, empower them in a way, and they start to think more about it. And they see, if you present that there are some possibilities for 100% subsidies on the national level, some of them will take this as well. And this was actually our main goal. So do the first step, and then we can think about the next step that can actually save you a bit more with the issue itself. And then the first question about the contracts, I don't have a final solution here. And we still, because of the COVID situation, didn't have a case like this now in the project. So we didn't help anybody. But what the people in Barcelona told us, they're trying to find solutions, legal solutions on how to get out of the contract. In some cases, it doesn't work. So you cannot help the household because they're in debt, and in the end, you have to pay that. In some cases, they can mediate it with the utility service, with the company they own. So if you have a mediator there and the company knows that in the end they will never get this money, then some solutions can be found. And they also had a lot of issues of changing contracts because of being stuck in one tariff that was not good, or it was too expensive for the household itself. They tried to change the contract to a bit better one. But for us, as I said, because of the COVID situation, we still didn't implement any of the assemblies. I mean, we're talking with the legal experts on the issue and with the National Consumer Association that is also quite active in this topic. So we'll see what we can do here. But I know that we won't be able to save like hundreds of households, maybe several of them.
Okay.
I also have a question. In Ghana here, usually if you want to buy for electricity, it's prepaid. You have to, like, if you want to consume about $50 worth of electricity, then you pay for it, and then you will have access to it. So you don't use, and then later on you go and pay. So it's prepaid. So I want to find out how it works in your country. How is the system like?
In Slovenia, you cannot have a prepaid contract for electricity and water and all the energy services, but in other countries you can. In France you can, in Spain you can. So yeah, it goes in similar as in Ghana then regarding the contract. So you pay 50 euros or I don't know how much, and then you try not to use more, or if, I mean, when you get to the end, you're done. So I cannot evaluate, because I don't have experience with it. I cannot evaluate all the good parts and the bad parts of this kind of a system, but maybe it motivates the end user to use as less electricity as it can. But in the end, that can bring you to a situation when you don't use the energy when you have to, maybe, or when it's needed for your health or something like that. So it's not all positive. But on the other hand, you have cases in, I think in Serbia, they had a subsidy for some amount of energy. So for electricity, you got subsidies for I don't know how many kilowatt hours, and you could use that for free. And that meant that you didn't check regularly how much energy you use. You just used it because you had this amount for free. And you didn't care if you're rational or not rational or economic with the usage of it. So that's an economic measure for reducing energy poverty, but it brings no positive impacts on the energy efficiency side, and the situation in the future will not get better because of this subsidy.
I have just one question regarding like the situation with COVID-19, and that your implementation of your project is kind of weird situation that we all are. But I was interesting for me would be if you've done a research on the maybe if there is an increase of use of energy in our households. For example, because now a lot of people work from home, some students go to university from home. So if you have done any research on that.
Not me personally, but there are statistics in all of the countries. So regarding electricity use, it went higher for majority of the households. So the bills were higher, but at least in Slovenia, they reduced the price of electricity for that period nationally, or not reduce the price itself, but households didn't have to pay for one part of the value. I don't know for what, for energy efficiency tariff. That was the case, and there's actually a report on the energy poverty and COVID issue, part of Engager project. I can send you the report, but I don't remember what were the main issues now. But one of the issues was definitely that if you're being held in a house or in an apartment for all the period, you cannot go outside, you will use more energy. And if you had problems for paying the bills before, now you have a even bigger problem. So some solution has to be found for that as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Tommy. I think if we end it here, and if anyone has any other questions, I'm sure Tommy would answer them in an email, or we can pass on a question possibly. We will send out the email with the video on that we didn't get to watch today. But thank you all for coming. Thank you again, Tommy. If you would like to see any of our previous talks, they are on our YouTube channel, and we'll be back in 2 weeks' time for our next digital talk. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Bye-bye.